now. All right, everybody. For those that are on the Zoom, we got a couple people on the Zoom, but I have 𝐸𝐸pen here, 𝐸𝐸pen Thampy. He's actually, 𝐸𝐸pen, you're from St. Louis, right?
Yeah, I grew up in Maryland Heights.
Okay. So 𝐸𝐸pen is a Missouri lobbyist with Great State Strategies, and he's working with Representative Krista Finelli on a few legislation. Before I have him speak, I just want to make a couple announcements. With Crypto World, we're going to be in Dallas, Texas, January 13th. So let me see if I can share it. Share. So it won't let me share it. Oh, this is canceled. One second. No. Can you see what's on the screen, Ethan?
I can see you.
That's, you can just see me. All right, well, so I'm just gonna, without pulling it up, for people that are here. So January 13th, we are going to be in Dallas, Texas for Crypto World franchise opportunity. So we have about 100 people that want to franchise Crypto World. And so basically, we're going to basically just talk about our operations here and the timeline of when we're going to franchise. That's kind of on our roadmap. And so basically, we're going to have Bitcoin Ben. We also have we're also going to have people like Bitsby Trippin that's going to be speaking, and also some of our trusted partners, Viva, 𝐥𝐤𝐤𝐞, and a few other partners that will be there also speaking. It's going to be probably a 4 to 5 hour event. Like I said, we're just going to break down kind of what our future plans are with Crypto World, and the goal is to be able to expand, you know, but next year at least have a couple more locations, and then 4 to 5 years, a couple hundred locations. So we have about 100 people that are very interested in at least putting a deposit down to say that they get the first Crypto World in their city. So more to come on that, but I want to go ahead and have 𝐸𝐸pen talk a little bit about what he's doing with the state rep, and also a little bit about him. And if at the end we'll have some Q&A, I'm sure folks that have questions. But 𝐸𝐸pen, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Jeff, how much time do we have here?
Say again?
How much time do we have here?
Oh, we have, if you want to speak for 45 minutes, you know, you have that much time.
Sounds good. Okay, well, I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about myself and how I got introduced and involved in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency generally. Then kind of talk about, you know, the lobbying process, the political process. You guys had Representative Krista Finelli speak to you last week about the actual legislation, so I won't cover that unless there's any specific questions. But let me kind of just give a little background on myself. So my parents are from South India. Grew up in St. Louis. My dad's a physician at Mercy South. Have a brother deployed in the Air Force. Have a handful of other brothers and sisters around the country doing various things. In high school, and I went to Parkway North in Maryland Heights, which I'm sure some of you are aware of. I was a big high school debater, and that was really the thing that, you know, I was obsessed by. And then at Mizzou, I studied economics and math, and I also was ended up being the president of the Mizzou policy debate team in the NDT-CETA circuit. So policy debate has been a big part of my life, and it's has a lot to do with how I became a lobbyist. Basically, I loved the intellectual stimulation and competitive aspect of debate. I ended up being a pretty decent debater in my high school and college days, and then after college, I coached high school teams for several years. Instead of going to graduate school, I was initially thinking about going to law school or maybe doing a economics grad school, but glad I didn't. I ended up getting into politics because of high school debate. I'd done a lot of in-depth research on several specific fields of inquiry that had to do with governance, everything from the Fourth Amendment to national security policy. Ended up getting involved with a lot of drug policy issues. I'm one of the people who started the marijuana legalization movement in Missouri about 12 years ago. I used to run a nonprofit working on a esoteric legal issue called civil asset forfeiture, which is essentially a governmental property seizure mechanism that is in dire need of reform. And I won't get into the details there, but I worked on those issues for many years. And about 10 years ago, a close friend of mine from Columbia, Missouri, introduced me to Bitcoin. He was doing a little mining, which I'm very sorry to say I bought probably $100 worth of Bitcoin and lost the my laptop that I had the wallet on got destroyed, and I really wish I had that wallet right now, I tell you. I've been following Bitcoin for about 10 years now. From a philosophical standpoint, it is the argument for cryptocurrency for Bitcoin is very powerful. It is a tool to decentralize power from centralized authorities. It is a tool to help us as Americans attain or reattain financial sovereignty from a financial system and a federal government that is addicted to spending and is inflating our dollars away. From a philosophical standpoint, it is a tool that is going to cause to give people around the world a lot more opportunities to be free. So, from a philosophical level, I've always had a great appreciation and interest in blockchain technologies. Over the last 4 years, I've kind of watched quietly as Wyoming began innovating on creating a strong legal framework for cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. And kind of the issue there and kind of the opportunity there is that, Wyoming, it's a very, conservative libertarian state. They have a strong mentality of let's keep the government out from preventing us from using these tools. Let's give investors and startups a lot more legal certainty in terms of digital assets. So over the last 4 years, Wyoming has passed and implemented roughly 24 different bills that do everything from, as Phil Crispinelli talked last week, defining digital assets in the Uniform Commercial Code to creating special purpose bank charters, state chartered banks in Wyoming to hold digital assets and do innovative things in terms of banking. Here in Missouri, I've long felt that we have a similar mentality to Wyoming. Maybe we're not, quite as mountainous as Wyoming, but we have a similar conservative libertarian mentality. I've been thinking about, hey, let's watch Wyoming pass these laws and then steal some of the best ideas, as Phil says. So earlier this year, I was up in Jefferson City. In September, every September, the Missouri General Assembly reconvenes to address vetoes that the governor has passed down. So if the governor vetoes a bill, the legislature has the opportunity in September to override that veto with a 2/3 majority in each chamber. So, I didn't have any bills that were vetoed, but it's a good opportunity to come up to the Capitol and, reconnect with everyone in politics and kind of talk about, hey, what are we going to do next year? And, I'd had several conversations with folks here in Kansas City or in Columbia, maybe a couple in St. Louis area, that were interested in pursuing a Wyoming model legislative framework. So, I was walking around the Capitol. Phil was on my list of people to go talk to. I walked into his office. I said, "Hey, Phil, are you interested in filing, blockchain or cryptocurrency legislation?" And his ears kind of perk up, and he's like, "I've already been talking to the Wyoming blockchain stampede, the organization that kind of got got put together in Wyoming that has really promoted Wyoming's strong, crypto protective legislative framework." So I was very excited that Phil was not only educated on the issue, but had already kind of taken a step into the issue. So I said, hey, let's talk here in the next month or two. I'm going to talk to as many stakeholders as I can find, see what interest is out there, see kind of what people want us to do, and I'll get back to you with a proposal on a couple of bills that we could file. So began reaching out to people in the crypto space here in Missouri. My friend Mike Franco, who is the chairman of the Missouri Republican Liberty Caucus, told me I got to talk to this guy Jeff in St. Charles, who has this Crypto World store. So that's how we connected. So very grateful to Mike for that connection, and sent out a couple emails and got a lot of interest in doing certain things to enhance and assure that Missouri entrepreneurs have security and protection and a firm playing field in terms of not just protecting their assets and keeping taxation at bay, but also the legal mechanisms and the legal framework for doing transactions securely and really supercharging the ability of entrepreneurs to do startups and innovative things in the space here in Missouri. So I looked at the Wyoming legal framework and came up with several ideas and sent them around. And it seems like there's some interest in protecting digital assets from taxation, ensuring that token offerings are considered securities, creating a sandbox, so to speak, that gives entrepreneurs at least a couple years security in terms of keeping regulators away and doing things that regulators are not prepared or don't understand what they're doing, because obviously digital assets are something relatively new, and we should be able to maximize the opportunity that we have to develop and innovate. And at some level, what we're trying to do is not just keep Missouri competitive, but also not drive entrepreneurs' investment outside of the country. So that's kind of what we're going to begin attempting here in a few days up in Jefferson City. So floated around a proposal. Looks like Phil Cristofanelli is going to file some of the ideas we've sent to him as legislation here in Missouri. There was a team of attorneys up in Jeff City called Legislative Drafting Services, who will send us a draft here, hopefully end of the week or next week sometime. I'll flip that draft around and make sure that if we want to make any changes before Phil actually files a bill, we've got that opportunity. And then we will file a bill. So once we file a bill, so let me kind of give you a breakdown of how the House and Senate and the governor work together in Jefferson City to pass legislation. So every Missourian has a state representative and a state senator. Don't quote me on these numbers, but I believe that I think every state representative represents roughly 35,000 people. Every state senator represents roughly 175,000 people, give or take. We have 164 members of the House of Representatives. Currently, we have little over a 2-to-1 Republican supermajority in the House. In the Senate, we have 34 state senators. I think we have, I want to say 11 or 12 Democrats in the Senate, and the rest are Republicans. So we are a conservative supermajority legislative state. And then we have Lieutenant Governor 𝐦𝐨𝐬 and Governor Mike Parson, who are both former members of, I believe, the House and the Senate. I met Governor Parson when he was a state senator probably 5 or 6 years ago. And he's also a former sheriff from Polk County. So let me kind of talk a little bit about this, the dynamics in the House and the Senate. So Missouri is a very large state. I think we're the 8th largest United States, we're the 8th largest state by area in the United States. We have 114 counties plus the city of St. Louis. That's a lot of counties. So, every 2 years, we have elections for our state house. So state representatives run for office every 2 years. We have term limits that limit any office holder in the state to 8 years. So that's 4 terms of 2 years in the House of Representatives, and that's 2 terms of 4 years in the Missouri Senate. So let me kind of talk about the dynamics in the House. So the House is a lot of people. There's 164 lawmakers there. Now, I think 5 or 6 of the lawmakers in the House have either died or resigned, unfortunately. So we're short of a full complement. Governor can always call a special election, but looks like the governor is going to wait till the November elections to you guys hearing me or?
Yeah, we can hear you. We just had something on the screen pop up. Sorry.
Okay. So, so we have 164 state representatives. The majority party selects the Speaker of the House, who controls largely how the House operates, and the majority floor leader, who controls the course of debate on the floor. So the Speaker is the most powerful individual in the House. In this case, our Speaker is a good guy, Rob Vescovo from Jefferson County. He's a really smart guy and very tenacious lawmaker. Has a lot of respect. That's how he got elected to be Speaker of the House. So the Speaker of the House does several things. He first off, he refers all bills to a committee, and he also appoints the committee chairs and vice chairs. Right. So all legislation, so Philip Chris Finelli is going to file a bill. It's going to go to the Speaker's office. The Speaker is going to say this bill is going to go to general laws or emerging issues or Health and Mental Health Policy Committee, right? And the Speaker will also have appointed chairs and vice chairs of all these committees. So let's say we go to General Law Committee, right? Then it's up to that committee chair to notice a hearing for the bill. So now one way a bill can die is the committee chair never notices a hearing, and it just like stays there and nothing happens. And then in May, the legislature finishes for the year and the bill is done, right? But in this case, we expect Phil to be able to get a hearing for his bills because he is a senior member of the body and has a lot of respect. And so so there's several ways that power is brokered in the House of Representatives. One way is majority party controls most of the action. The minority party, the Democrats, will appoint, their minority leader, who will work with the speaker and the majority floor leader to staff committees. So they'll get their committee appointments. So a bill goes to committee. We have a hearing on the committee. That's an opportunity for you all to come up and say, hey, this bill's a really good idea, or this bill's a really bad idea, right? Or say, hey, here's some information the committee can use to make its decision. We're not going to take a stance one way or the other. Or let's say we want to change something. Say, we file a bill on property taxation that prohibits property taxation laws from being applied to Bitcoin, right? And we decide, hey, we want to say not just Bitcoin, but other cryptocurrencies as well. So we're going to make an amendment. So we can work with a member of the committee to introduce an amendment. So after the hearing, the committee can choose to either that day or maybe the next time they meet to have what's called an executive session, where they talk about the information they've received from the public, from their constituents, the information that witnesses have given to the committee during the hearing, and say, okay, hey guys, this is a great idea. I'm voting yes, or I'm voting no. So if the bill comes out of that first committee in the House, it then goes to what's called a Rules Committee, which is another way that a bill can die or be killed in the legislature, in the House of Representatives. So the Rules Committee, is really a place where, if the Speaker wants to kill a bill, or the majority party wants to kill a bill, that's where they could do it, after the hearing and vote in the first committee. But Phil's, again, well respected. He has a lot of favors. He's a popular guy. He'll probably get his bill out of the Rules Committee in the House, right? Then we go to the floor of the House. That's when all 164 lawmakers have an opportunity to debate, have an opportunity to again offer an amendment, and then vote yes or no on the bill. So, hopefully we get to that point this year, and we get a floor vote for Representative Christopher Finelli's bills, and we get them passed out of the House of Representatives. Now, you kind of may be picking this up from the description of the process, but in the House, there's a wide disparity, or there can be a wide disparity amongst how much power any individual lawmaker has, right? So Speaker of the House is most powerful guy. The majority floor leader is second most powerful guy. Power is, the majority power has more power than the minority party. Seniority matters. So a freshman lawmaker, someone who just got elected, is not going to have as much seniority as someone like Phil, who's been in office now for, I think, 6 years. So one way that bills get priority is through seniority. So the people who've been in office 3 or 4 terms are a little ahead of everyone else in getting their bills filed and referred and heard in committee. Now, there's always factors, idiosyncratic factors about any year that can create more priority or more urgency. One way that we can create more priority or urgency for any issue is if a lot of people call up their state lawmakers and say, hey, we got to get this done, right? And not just call, but also show up. So, it's always a privilege to walk into the Missouri Capitol, and it's the one place in the state of Missouri that everyone is welcome, that everyone can walk in freely. They can't keep you out of the Missouri Capitol. It's truly the people's house. So hopefully, later this month or next month, we'll have a lobby day, and we'll bring in crypto advocates, and we'll do the initial work of educating lawmakers. You'll talk to your state representative, you'll talk to your state senator. If we have a committee referral, we'll talk to the members of the committee and say, hey, here's the issues that this bill represents. I'm a crypto investor. I'm a crypto enthusiast. I hold Bitcoin. I don't want to be taxed on it. I want to have clear legal structure for transactions, or startups or entrepreneurial opportunities. I want the state of Missouri to make it friendly and possible for me to do what I'm trying to do here in the state of Missouri instead of going to Wyoming or Florida or Texas or another state, right? So hopefully we'll have the opportunity to have at least one, maybe a couple lobby days here in the next couple of months. So, but let's get back to this the process of legislation. So, we get a bill voted out of the House of Representatives, and then it goes to the Missouri Senate. So the Missouri Senate structurally is a lot different than the House. So whereas in the House you have you can have a great disparity in the power of each individual member. In the Senate, every senator has roughly equal power, and part of that comes from the rules of the Senate, where it is very rare, or at least it shouldn't happen too often, but senators are usually allowed to debate on a bill for an unlimited amount of time. So if they chose to do that, it's called a filibuster, right? So the scarce asset in the legislature ends up being time. So if you take up a day or half a day or 2 days on a bill, you might kill the bill in the Senate because there's a lot of other issues that need to be debated and discussed, and other bills that need to be passed. As Phil said to you last week, about 2,000 bills get filed every year. So time becomes an issue, especially later on in the legislative session. Especially around end of April, May-ish. So, like I said, every senator has roughly equal power. The majority party has a little bit more power. They elect the president of the Senate and the and the Senate pro tem, and the majority floor leader, who again controls the flow of debate on the Senate floor. But they have committees in the Senate. They don't have a rules committee, but they have all the typical standing or statutory committees. Budget, health policy, veterans affairs, etc. So we get a bill out of the Missouri House. So then, if we've done a good job, we have found a senator to say, I'm going to carry this bill. I like this idea. I think it's a great idea. I'm going to work with Phil Cristofanelli to pass this bill in the Senate. So let's say, for the sake of debate, we haven't had this discussion yet, but just a hypothetical. So let's say your state senator, Bill 𝐦𝐤𝐤, who represents your district, says, I like these bills that Phil's filed and got out of the House. I'm going to carry them in the Senate. So Bill 𝐦𝐤𝐤, Senator Bill 𝐦𝐦𝐤, the bill handler in the Senate, he goes, the bills, he puts his name on them as the Senate handler. The Senate president makes a referral to committee. And then we go through the committee process again. We get a hearing. We have an opportunity to bring you guys in, talk to the committee members, talk to the committee during the hearing, say this is a great idea. And then we'll have an executive Senate session in the committee and vote yes or no. So let's say Bill 𝐦𝐤𝐤 carries Phil's bills in the Senate, gets it out of committee, gets a yes vote out of committee. Then we go again to the Senate floor. And we kind of have a repeat of the process in the House, except instead of 164 members, we have 34 senators debating the bill. And let's say again, we have a lot of interest and a lot of support for the idea, and we get voted out of the Senate, and we have passed Phil's legislation out of both houses of the General Assembly. Then we go to the governor. Right. So the governor is going to be watching this whole process. One thing that can happen, during the process in the General Assembly is the governor can say, I hate this idea, I'm going to veto it, or I like this idea, I'm going to support it, and I will sign it if it comes to my desk. So, now the Senate and the House, which comprise the General Assembly, is a co-equal branch of government. It's a legislative branch of government. So they're, theoretically have co-equal power with the governor, which is the executive branch, and the Supreme Court, which is the judicial branch. So in some senses, the legislature has the most power because the legislature controls our budget, all budget processes originate in the House of Representatives and have to get past both houses in the the only constitutional duty that the General Assembly has is actually to pass a budget. So that's one thing that they absolutely have to do every year is pass a budget, right? But they control, so the governor, if the governor makes an appointment to an agency, the Senate has a duty of advising and consenting to that appointment, or they can reject it. But during the process, the governor keeps a close eye on bills that are likely to end up on his desk. So, and he'll often provide feedback, but sometimes the governor's input is not welcome, and this happens once in a while. The leader of the House and the leader of the Senate say, "Hey, governor, we're going to do this, and if you don't like it, too bad. We'll override your veto." So, in some instances, the legislative process between the General Assembly and the governor can be a little bit combative, but usually not always. But on occasion it happens. But let's say the governor, we've done our job, throughout the process of passing a bill, and so not only have we talked to lawmakers and gotten them to support our ideas, but the lawmakers have talked to the governor's office. We've done good media. You guys are doing great media out in your area with being able to get on talk radio, and we'll put out some op-eds over the course of the year, right? And the governor's going to be watching all of this, right? Bill comes to his desk, that's our opportunity again to do one last step of advocacy, which is reach out to the governor's office and say, "Hey, we got to get this bill done." A lot of economic investment, a lot of economic development, and our from a philosophical standpoint, our ability as a state to decentralize power from DC and create more freedom here in Missouri is at stake, right? And so hopefully the governor says, "Okay, I get it. Let's do this," signs the bill. Now, most bills that the governor signs become law by end of August of that year. Now, sometimes there's an emergency clause. So, if there's an emergency clause added to a bill, it can become law immediately on his signatures, but most bills don't have an emergency clause. To get an emergency clause, you have to have, I think, a 2/3 vote in both chambers. So yeah, that's the process.
Hey, Eapen.
Yeah.
With Zoom, we actually only have 5 minutes because they give us only 40 minutes to use the platform. So I wanted to give a few minutes just for Q&A for anybody here. I know we have, I think Andy Limbaugh is in the house here. Andy, I'm gonna wave to Eapen. I don't know if you guys have met before.
Actually, we haven't, but I know of you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm friends with Peter Kinder, so
He's
go back and forth with him.
I've known him.
But anybody have any questions for Eapen? We got like 4 minutes.
Can
And
I just make it, it's Andy, can I make a quick comment? Jeff,
Please.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
This should be presented in every classroom, grades 1 through 12, in every school in the state, so that everybody has an understanding of how the legislative process works. You just explained it beautifully in 20 minutes. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. That's a great compliment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quick question. So coincidentally, right before you came on, we were actually watching a news clip on Puerto Rico and their crypto legislation. So I know you guys are looking to Wyoming. Is there any plans to incorporate anything that Puerto Rico has done as well?
We will steal any good idea from any state or territory in the United States. So if you have a good idea, let's talk about it. This year in 2022, we need to, we want to have a good tight focus. We're filing 4 or 5 bills maybe. But like Phil said last week, this is going to be a multi-year process because most of the legislature has no idea about blockchain technology or Bitcoin or any of the above. So our job first and foremost is education. So yes, we will take in any idea and under consideration. So we'll file a small number of bills to start that process this year. Next year, we'll probably expand the scope of the bills that we file. For instance, I'm already having time. We're not going to file a bank bill to do a Missouri charter bank that holds digital assets just yet. We'll wait probably for 2023. So so some ideas we'll say, yes, let's incorporate that right now. Let's, other ideas we'll say, let's do that next year. But yeah, whatever we can do to make Missouri a friendly environment for investors and entrepreneurs.
Real quick question. So most of the time when people are talking about this legislation, they refer to Bitcoin. Are there any other specific cryptocurrencies that you want to incorporate into this bill?
We want to generally create protections and opportunity for all blockchain technologies. Now, with Bitcoin specifically, so I doubt any of the legislation that we file will specifically say Bitcoin. We'll use broader terms like digital assets or blockchain, or when it comes to taxation, we'll talk about cryptocurrency generally. Now, one thing that I would like to do is promote adoption of Bitcoin specifically by the state of Missouri, but hopefully we'll incorporate that into one of the bills. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. Do you have any specific definitions that you would give for cryptocurrencies in general, so that we don't accidentally just grab a blockchain technology that is just generally
yes,
utilized as a scam? I don't know.
So, like I said, we expect Phil to have a draft of the legislation we'll file here this weekend or maybe next week. And what I will do is I'll float that out to all of you for comment, right? Because we'll want to make sure that we get as much of this right out the gate as possible. So if there is a definition that seems to you a little loose, we can tighten it up.
Sounds good.
I got another question.
Yeah.
What do you think is like the best proposal you heard for cryptocurrencies and digital assets? Like the one you think is the strongest, most beneficial to people, and what do you think is like the weakest, like kind of proposal you've heard, or like the worst off for like digital assets and cryptocurrencies?
I don't know. The worst proposal I've heard for cryptocurrency is what the Democrats did in the infrastructure bill, the 60/50 provisions, and that's federal laws. So, I'm going to be working with lawmakers. So part of what we're going to do is not just establish a bulwark for blockchain technology here in the state of Missouri, but also work with our federal delegation to make sure that the federal government stays out of the way. So I'm working with a friend of mine, Taylor Burks, who's running for Congress and is likely to be the next congressman from mid-Missouri. And he's a big advocate and big supporter of crypto and blockchain technologies. So to answer your question, the worst idea is kind of what I've already heard from Elizabeth Warren and Democrats up in DC who don't understand our technology, or worse, hate these technologies. Best idea, I like everything that Wyoming has done. I'm very interested. So one of the bills I proposed to Phil is allowing decentralized autonomous organizations to incorporate. I think that decentralized autonomous organizations have a lot of valuable use cases. And I'll tell you one of the use cases I came up with. So in the state of Missouri, a charter school has to have a sponsorship organization for governance purposes, right? So I've proposed to a friend of mine who runs a charter school here in Kansas City that, hey, we should have a bill that allows decentralized autonomous organizations to incorporate. And then the next step is allowing a DAO to be the governance organization of a charter school, right? And you could give the governance tokens to the parents of the children who are in the school, right? There's a couple ideas and a couple kinks that probably have to be worked out, but I think that's a really neat use case for DAOs if they were allowed to be incorporated, right? And it's a way to also decentralize the education system even further, and give parents real control over education, which is another issue I'm very passionate about.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Ethan?
Do you see the outlook of these sort of bills being more Keynesian or Austrian in their?
More Austrian. We're not here to do quantitative easing or promote modern monetary theory. You know, that's what the Federal Reserve does, and they do it unfortunately way too well.
Anybody else in the state? I know Berks accepts crypto for donations. Anybody else that you know of is accepting crypto as donations to help with the campaigns?
That's a good question. So I don't. Now, there are a couple other lawmakers who are very interested in cryptocurrency. So like Travis Fitzwater from Holt Summit, he's a state representative, or Tony Lavasco, also from St. Charles. He's another state representative. I think part of the barrier is that we just don't have a lot of like good technologies or good integrations, right? So Taylor Burks, who's running for Congress to replace Vicky Hartzler in Congressional District 4, he accepts Bitcoin, and I encourage all of you to go to his website, Taylor Burks for Congress, and hopefully we'll get him out to Crypto World sometime and do a talk like this, because he has a very unique perspective and a very valuable perspective, and he will be a very strong lawmaker for Missouri if he's elected to federal government. He'll also be the first veteran elected. And I want to kind of like take off on a tangent there, since I just thought of something. So one of our jobs, right, is to promote crypto adoption. Right now, I see a lot of crypto adoption in a couple of different communities. One is veterans. So veterans, if you've worked for the federal government, you know how dysfunctional it can be, and how dangerous unchecked power can be. Veterans seem to be very interested in crypto because of its potential to decentralize power and to create preconditions for more liberty. Another group I've seen a lot of adoption, and this is, so I kind of see the potential for a transpartisan alliance on crypto, right? So you have like Black communities. I'll give you an example, like Ferguson, North County, St. Louis, that are unbanked or underserved by traditional financial institutions. Crypto adoption is blowing up in the Black community because for exactly that reason. Because if I have a job and I can get my employer to pay me on Cash App, then I can buy Bitcoin, and this is my wallet, my savings account. I can access decentralized financial exchanges, do things that were previously only the province of wealthy investors and in wealthier communities, right? So I'm seeing a lot of crypto adoption right now in Black communities. And I think that's going to be we're going to be able to create a transpartisan alliance on this issue, because you have libertarian Republicans on the right, and you have Democrats who represent minority communities that are underserved by traditional finance institutions. The other big political issue I see right now that's very supportive of what we're trying to do is simply inflation. Everyone who puts food on the table in this country knows that their dollar is worth 7% less than it was last year, right? And that's not, and you get, even if you have a bank account, what's your savings, interest rate? It's like maybe 1%, right? So if you get 1% on your savings account, man, you're losing 5 to 6% of your wealth every year right now, thanks to inflation, right? So that's a kitchen table issue, right? So that's an opportunity for us to go to the voters of the state of Missouri and say, hey, federal government's being irresponsible with our dollars. Federal Reserve is printing more money, right? We can use alternative currencies like Bitcoin, which is a stable, hard currency that's non-inflationary, right? That's a message that the ordinary voter can understand, right? I don't necessarily have to explain blockchain to a voter to explain to them, hey, this is a currency that is non-inflationary, right? That's a political message right now that will get a lot of attention. So I see a lot of potential to, promote Bitcoin, to promote use of blockchain technologies generally. right now because of the external political currents and particularly inflation.
Yeah, interesting stat that I heard about El Salvador is that it took El Salvador 40 years to get 1.2 million people bankable. And in 30 days, once they moved over to Bitcoin as their legal tender, in 30 days, they have, I think, close to 4 million people bankable because everybody there has cell phones. So it's interesting that you say that about kind of the inner city, because it's a similar problem that the inner city is having, and something us folks here we don't see as a big issue because most of us here have bank accounts, but the inner cities, I think the number was only like under 30% of people in inner cities have bank accounts. But yeah, I think that's definitely a great way to. I know Jason Stewart from Cool
Yeah.
Valley. You're friends with him.
Yep.
I think he's doing some good things over there to really help that community.
Yep. Over Christmas holiday, I did an event here in Kansas City with a friend of mine who's going to run for city council. He's a Black entrepreneur who owns a barbershop, and he does this holiday party for underprivileged families in the community. And he asked me for my help, and I'm like, hey man, why don't we do a Bitcoin education and giveaway, right? Every kid who shows up, we teach them to download a wallet and give them like $25 in Bitcoin, right? So that's what we did. It was pretty cool. And it was amazing to just like talk to, kids from the community, because like their parents, didn't necessarily know anything about Bitcoin, but they were like all the parents were like concerned about inflation, right? The kids all knew about Bitcoin and were just like jumping up and down to get a little bit of crypto. So, it was a super cool event, but like, at the grassroots level, right? Even here in Kansas City, the word's getting out that there's solutions to our, financial challenges in our monetary system that can empower us. And I like to use the phrase, create financial sovereignty.
Yeah, I got a funny story to tell about that. Is, as you know, I went to Wyoming for the I think Wyoming hackathon, but got a chance to meet some of the senators, Senator Loomis and her team. But I flew into Denver, Colorado, and decided to take an Uber from Denver to I think Laramie. So it was probably an hour and a half, 2-hour Uber drive from Denver there. But my Uber driver had no clue about crypto or Bitcoin. And of course, an hour and a half drive, I had to let him know about crypto world, about Bitcoin. But at the end of the ride, I had him open up his Cash App, and I told him that I would tip him in Bitcoin. And I ended up tipping him, I think $100, for the ride from Denver there. And I gave him my card. And he still texts me today, just thanking me just for not for tipping him $100, but introducing him into Bitcoin. And he's telling friends and family, about it. Very much, grateful. For Christmas, I gave wallets, cold wallets out for gifts, and put crypto, Bitcoin, Raven coin, whatever coins that I had. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different ways to help educate folks. That they see it on TV, they see it on the internet, but for them to truly understand it, they gotta, like with me, just get your hands in it, right? Get your feet wet, and then kind of you get into it and do research and so forth. But yeah, man, it's great having you on. I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
A suggestion, maybe you were shocked sending the link on the Puerto Rico.
The link on Puerto Rico. So I guess,
Puerto Rico.
Jonas, the Puerto Rico, they're just doing what? No income tax on any crypto? No capital gains. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think we're trying to one of the bills that Phil's going to file here in Missouri would exempt digital assets from taxation, and that's important because the Director of Revenue can unilaterally decide that these assets are taxable, So, if we can create a statutory protection that says, no, they're not, that's something obviously that we want to get done. So, like I said, I'll send Jeff and Gary the draft bills that we get back from legislative services, and we'll want your input. So if there's an idea that we can slip in there, we'll do it. So hopefully we can have an actual bill filed or a set of bills filed by second or third week of January. But we do want to take our time and make sure that we've got as much of this right going out the gate as possible.
Is there an opportunity to view that legislation and how?
Is there an opportunity to view the legislation? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and how? How do you?
And how? Okay, yeah, so you're gonna send that over to us and then we can probably email it to everybody on our email list. When do you think that'll be available?
I'm actually about to leave Kansas City and head up to Jeff City. The first day of session is tomorrow, so I'll be talking to Phil tomorrow. And I'll just hit him up and say, hey, do we have a draft yet, or what's the timeline? And legislative services right now are probably overwhelmed with lawmakers telling them to draft bills for them. But we'll probably get something end of this week, maybe next week. So, but I'll work with you guys to ensure that you guys are up to speed on the actual proposals and have an opportunity for input before we actually formally file a bill.
One last one for me. 𝐦𝐤𝐤𝐬, my senator, President's already in the House. Seen any tea leaves out of 𝐦𝐤𝐤 as far as support or lack of support?
Sorry, so 𝐤𝐤𝐤,
Senator 𝐦𝐤𝐤.
Senator 𝐦𝐤𝐤, and
For, against?
is he for or against anything with crypto?
We haven't talked to him yet, but just from what I know of him, he is a strong advocate for freedom and decentralizing power from the federal government. I have no doubt that when we go to actually talk to him and do a little education with him, that he'll be supportive. Part of my job is to know who's in office and know how they think and what their backgrounds are. 𝐦𝐤𝐤 is a great advocate for freedom. He is very strong libertarian conservative. I would say the same of like Andrew Koenig. I'd say the same of Justin Brown or Mike Moon, who are who are other state senators. So like just from an ideological basis, I know we have a lot of friends on this issue, but we have to do the actual education to go talk to them. So I will work with you guys to go through that process. And one thing that you guys should do, I'll talk to Phil about this as well, is you should get Senator 𝐦𝐤𝐤 to your establishment for a talk and maybe listen to what you guys have going on, because they need to hear from you. So one of the great things about our system is, again, the legislature, anyone can walk into the Capitol and give their lawmakers a piece of their mind, and it's one of the great things about this state. It's one of the great things about this country. They can't keep you out of the process, most lawmakers are very receptive to their constituents or supporters coming up to them and giving them some education. That's what they're there to be, part of. I'd also, I may have shared with you Mayor Stewart's number as well. You should get him up to your space. I do want to throw out one name as well. So here at UMKC, University of Missouri, Kansas City, at the law school, there's a professor who used to be a former federal tax prosecutor. His name is Del Wright, D-E-L Wright with a W. He is probably the smartest legal mind on crypto issues that I know of in the state, if not the country. But he, like I said, he used to be a federal tax prosecutor, so he has an intimate knowledge of how much power the federal government has, how much power the Department of Justice has, how much power the SEC and the CFTC have in terms of regulatory scope and how they can crack down on people if there's a legal uncertainty that allows the Department of Justice or another federal agency to do something, right? So Professor Wright is, he has in private practice, he advises crypto startups, especially with issues of tax structuring. But he is someone who you should also engage with, and that'll be another introduction I hope to bring to the table here in the next week or two. But look him up, Del Wright. He's written 4 books, I think, on crypto. He has a new law review article coming out about the bad crypto provisions in the federal infrastructure bill. He's someone who should be on your radar.
Yeah, sounds good. I know Crypto World, our mission is to help educate the community and folks around, just to be the rising tide, right, to help the whole industry. So if there's any platforms that we can participate in to help educate, just politicians or anyone interested, we'd love to be a part of that. But yeah, I mean, we do appreciate you guys coming in, everybody being here today to meet 𝐸PN, help support. We'll provide a link to 𝐸PN, and also to what Phil and also a few other crypto friendly politicians in Missouri. So I guess you're looking for any type of support, mainly donations, to help with the campaigns.
Well, I work with candidates. So the way the political cycles work, right? So like, for instance, Taylor Burks, who's running for Congress in mid-Missouri, if he is elected, he's going to be a strong advocate for this industry, for this issue, and for liberty, right? So I'm working to get him elected. I'm trying to help him raise money. He accepts Bitcoin and other cryptos. But if he is elected, he'll go into office in 2023. So so I'm working with candidate like that. I'm not working for what I'm going to do in 2022. I'm working for what we're going to do in 23 and 24, right? So you have to have at least something of a long-term outlook with the way political cycles work and have an idea and a grasp of, the 80,000-foot view, as well as, what's going on the ground. So I'm working with candidates like Taylor Burks, who's running for Congress. I'll probably work with Phil Cristofanilli on his re-election, and if he runs for Senate, I'm definitely going to support him on that. And then in Jeff City, as a lobbyist, it's my job to be collegial with the lawmakers, to educate them and to help advance the issues that my clients want. So look forward to working with you all. Look forward to supporting and representing this industry, and mostly look forward to the future when we have a little bit more freedom and a stable currency.
Sounds good. Thanks, 𝐸PN, for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.